Hello, everybody. Welcome to my podcast, Senior to Seniors, where I dive into the stories of seniors, explore their unique experiences, discuss the real issues facing seniors today, and introduce you to those assisting seniors in their senior journey. I have the privilege to talk with some of the most interesting people in the world impacting the senior community today. And my name is Jim Mazziotti. I've been a realtor for 33 years. I'm a national speaker, a real estate coach, and an author. But what I enjoy most is interviewing people for my podcast, which you are joining me with today. So let me first give you an introduction to my guest. And Claire Cavalieri is my guest today. And let me tell you just a little bit about her. Um, the Ageless Aging Wellness coach, Claire Cavalieri, works with individuals who desire to keep their body young, their mind sharp, and flourish at any age. Claire offers her health, fitness, and nutrition expertise to those people committed to the health and well-being of their future selves. Claire is enamored with all things Italian. We share that in common. She was raised on a Mediterranean diet, an Italian family customs such as slow eating, a little red wine now and then, and casually strolling with loved ones after dinner. Claire has passionately integrated these centuries old lifestyle principles into her wellness program because they are as effective today in maintaining youthfulness and promoting healing as they were hundreds of years ago. Claire's popular Breakthrough Wellness program imparts empowered science-based positive mindset beliefs that can influence one's future health and longevity results. Certified in wellness from Harvard Medical School, Claire is a prime example of avoiding disease, staying fit, and living her healthy years vibrantly. Claire, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. And I think you're perfect for my seniors audience. And today we're going to be talking about the power of choice in healthy aging, because we're all aging, of course. And I think it's particularly of interest to my seniors audience. And so thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what I didn't cover that they need to know about you?
Good morning, Jim. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm a senior myself, and I'll just sort of give a quick overview as to how I got into the wellness field. Um, as you mentioned, I'm an Italian American. I grew up in the Great Lakes state of Michigan. My mother was Italian, and in most cases, mothers kind of rule the roost. My mother cooked Italian food, but the interesting thing about that, we normally think of here in the US, we think of Italian food as spaghetti and meatballs, lasagna, but that's not the way my mother cooked. She
Mm,
cooked a lot of fish. You're probably raised a Catholic. In most cases, Italians are
mhm,
Catholic. And when I was growing up back in the 60s, the religion was always fish on Fridays.
mhm.
Um, and so I grew up on a lot of fish with vegetables. It was not a lot of pasta, unfortunately, because I love pasta.
Mhm.
So it was always healthy food, and we rarely had dessert, only on special occasions or holidays. So I did not develop a sweet tooth. So as it turned out, what I was eating as a child, I didn't realize at the time, but it really was the Mediterranean diet. It was very little beef. Sometimes my father would grill burgers on outside in the summer, but we did not eat much beef. It was fish,
Mm.
vegetables, salad, fruit for dessert. So it was the Mediterranean diet. The other thing that happened when I was a child living in the beautiful Great Lakes state was that we did a lot of outdoor activities because it was a place where you could be outdoors year round. We had the four seasons. We did a lot of fun family sports. We went skiing in the winter, cross country skiing, water skiing in the summer. We played tennis, we played golf, we went hiking, we walked, we jogged, we went swimming in the lakes. So I developed this love for being outdoors and moving my body and just having fun. We didn't realize it was actually exercise, which it really was. So as I grew up, I realized that I had this lifestyle of eating healthy and exercising, which that's not what I called it, but it was moving my body and getting fit. So
Hmm.
when I went looking for a career, I realized that I had this healthy lifestyle, and I thought to myself, wow, I'm kind of like a health nut. What can I do to um, make this into a career and monetize it? It was really a part of me that was innate. And I would love to share what I know with other people.
Hmm.
So at this time in my life, or not that long ago, wellness was trending. So I decided, okay, I can take what I know, share my expertise. It's just who I am. Get certified as a wellness coach and help other people be healthy and well into their elder years. And
Hmm.
so that's how I got to where I am today.
Wow. And so, when we grew up, as many of the seniors that listen to this will remember very well, generally in our homes, we had one television. When we were young kids, there were three channels, and maybe if you had the right antenna, you could watch BBS at that time. And so we were outdoors all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in Iowa, and it was the same way. It didn't matter what the temperature was outside.
Oh,
That
right.
didn't matter, right? Um,
Right.
we were outside, and of course, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't social media, which I think is causing so many issues with all people, but especially the youth today. And when you mentioned your diet of fish, my experience wasn't like that. My father owned a neighborhood grocery store and was a butcher. He owned the store and was a butcher, so we had a lot of meat
Hmm.
in our diets, only because we could, I guess, and and that's what he did. But when you mention fish diet and growing up, I can think, and growing up Catholic, um, in grade school, I can remember on Fridays the lunchroom smelling like fish when you went down to the can you I don't always fish sticks.
Fish on Fridays.
I think we got two fish sticks if I remember correctly. But I can remember that well. But so tell me, I know part of the power of choice in healthy aging has to do with preventing disease. That's a huge part of this, and something I think that if we haven't experienced a diseases in our age, it's something we all fear, of course. But tell me, what proactive steps can seniors take to avoid diseases as they age? What can they do proactively to help prevent that?
Well, what I really mean by the power of choice is um, recognizing that we have control over our health,
Mhm.
um, starting today and into the future. I think a lot of people think that we don't, and that we just have to let nature take its course, and that fate is in control, and that we just have to grow old, deteriorate, get a disease, and ultimately die.
Mhm.
And people don't recognize that that is not the case. We actually have at least 80% control over our health. Some of it is genetic, um, where, we may have inherited something that may not give us entire control, but by and
Right.
large, we do have control.
Hmm.
And the things that we can do, and we're going to talk about this more. I know you're going to ask me other questions, but we have lifestyle choices that we can make.
Hmm.
And it involves nutrition, it involves exercise, sleep, our mindset, our social connections, and our emotional health.
Hmm. Yeah. And when you talk about social connections, what I've been reading is loneliness in
Yes.
seniors is a huge thing. And maybe loneliness not only with seniors, but with, more and more of the population all the time. And I think it maybe might fall back to social media and scrolling uh, scrolling social media and going into that cave, if you will, and instead of talking to people, it's you go into seclusion, so to speak, which causes loneliness. And then you mentioned sleep, of course, and I think that's something many of us just put off. We don't think about controlling our sleep, and there's ways, as I'm sure you can mention, of having a sleep pattern that is normal, regular, so you don't have which I've heard many seniors say they're awake all night long because they can't
Oh
sleep.
my.
Yeah.
Sleep is vitally important to our health. And as you mentioned, uh, people don't recognize the importance of it. Sleep repairs our tissues. It regenerates our cells, and it restores our immune system while we're sleeping. So we all need, and especially as we grow older, we need to sleep at least 7 to 9 hours. And we do
Hmm.
need a routine,
Yes.
going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. We
Yeah.
definitely need a routine, and we need to put priority on sleep.
Yeah, and of course, with regular exercise and the right kind of nutrition, all that is possible. I know on your website, which by the way is a fantastic website, I could take
Thank
so
you.
many notes and form so many questions from your website. So I
Thank you.
encourage everybody to go there, and I'm going to put it, and maybe has been found in the show notes and so forth. But your website, why don't you tell us what your website is so people can, as they're listening to this, don't go away from the podcast, but write it down while you're listening. Your website to get all this great information is what, Claire?
It's my name. It's clairecavalieri.com, and it's CLAIRECavalieri.com.
Okay, and I'll put it in my notes, but I don't want people to bypass that. And I would love for everyone listening to go there as soon as we're done. And
Thank you.
if you find Claire of interest in her information, if you believe it might be helpful to you and your life, your spouse, to those people in your senior community or your community in general, uh, be sure to reach out to her, and she will help you. Claire is actually right here in Dallas, Texas, where I live, but you do work all over the country. I
Yes,
know.
I work, I coach people all over the globe, in fact, because
Yeah.
all my coaching is done by Zoom.
Yes. Yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
about what really caught my interest. I love education, and tell us about that you're certified at the Harvard Medical School. Tell us what that was and what that means. To me, as I read your credentials and so forth, that's a pretty powerful thing for me. But what does a certification in wellness from Harvard Medical School mean to those that work with you?
It was a wellness program that emphasized, it actually emphasized relationships and social connections, that piece of the pillars. I have my program, my wellness program emphasizes 6 pillars of wellness, and
Okay.
those are nutrition, physical activity, sleep, relaxation, social connections, and purposeful living.
Okay.
Um, so in that wellness program, it focused on, it was taught by Dr. Waldiner. If you're familiar with him, he runs the happiness study that's been ongoing at Harvard for 85 years.
Hmm.
So he runs the program on wellness that focuses on happiness. And in the subset of that is social connections, purposeful living, and wellness as a whole. So that was what our program was focused on. And it was very interesting.
Well, tell me a little bit about purposeful living, because it's my personal belief, and this isn't about me, but my personal belief that it's so important for seniors to be able to identify a purpose, to really, if this is what you're talking about, having a purpose for living, for contributing, for being a part of their community. Pers, pers, how does that fit your purposeful living? How does that fit your program?
Well, purposeful living is very important for anyone, but I think seniors in particular, because so often seniors are getting ready to retire, or they've retired and they're home, and they have gotten to the point where now they finish their careers and they wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah, yeah.
So they definitely need to have that reason to wake up in the morning. And it's vitally important to have that, because it is that feeling of, why am I here?
Hmm.
So whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be big uh, some big cause. It doesn't have to be like a job, but it can be something as small as, I'm going to get up and go see my grandchildren, or I'm going to get up and take care of my dog. So,
Hmm.
but it's got to be some reason to wake up in the morning and find a purpose in the day.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. So that is purposeful living.
yeah.
It's
And
just,
and
go
and,
ahead.
and I think a lot of seniors lose that sense of purpose. While I'm slowing down in my business or refocusing my business from being this big thing, I've actually identified for me working specifically with seniors in real estate and with helping them with life activities around that and aligning them with people that can help them. That's why you're here, Claire, to helping them with their journey of being a senior. And so purposeful living is huge. And I talked to a lot of seniors, and I know that of your 7 pillars, purposeful living is sometimes missing. And I'm guessing in your coaching that you do with your clients, that's one of the things that you help them identify maybe
Yes.
their purpose, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is important, I think, because people who don't feel that they have their purposeful living can get depressed.
Oh, yeah.
They can feel isolated, and they can really lose touch with their lives.
Yeah. And when that happens, their health is all associated with that, right? And it just
Exactly.
goes down. So I know when I was reading your materials and so forth, you identified 3 self-care practices that you believe every senior should incorporate into their daily routine. to enhance their lives. And not that you have to limit it to three or there has to be three self-care practices, but what are self-care practices that you use in your coaching and talk about that every senior should incorporate into their daily routine? What would you suggest?
Well, it can be different for everybody. These are what I do in the morning or sometime during the day. I start out when I get up in the morning, I drink a tall glass of water with a squeeze of lemon. Because
Okay.
when we wake up, we are usually dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times, we perspire while we're sleeping or we breathe through our mouths. So it's very good to wake up, drink a tall glass of water, put a squeeze of lemon in it, and then throughout the day, drink like a glass of water per hour.
Mm.
We need generally 8 glasses of water per day. And then with dinner, have some water. But then after that, stop drinking water because you don't want to get up in the middle of the night and drink water because that would interrupt your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Nor do you want to activate your digestive system while you're sleeping because that interrupts your sleep as well.
Sure.
So after dinner, try not to drink any more water or any beverages.
Mm. Okay.
So drinking water is a good thing, a good way to start your day.
Yeah.
Uh, Secondly, exercise. Do some form of exercise. I like to suggest doing it in the morning because that's a good way to start your day, get your blood flowing. It gets your mind gets the cobwebs out of your mind. So some sort of brisk activity for 30 minutes, whether that's taking a nice brisk walk or riding a bike or something, getting your heart pumping. And then thirdly, at the end of the day, get a really good restful night's sleep for 7 to 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do whatever suits um, you can do some sort of mindful meditation, um, whatever whatever makes your routine feel comfortable for you.
Yeah, well, and I know water is huge, and it's something that, admittedly, I don't drink enough of. I happen to drink diet soda, which is not good for me, and you might take me to task as soon as we're done with the show, and maybe give me a phone call. But but I work very hard. Have you heard of putting sea salt in your water? Have you ever heard of
Yes.
that?
Yeah,
Uh,
because that's sort of like creating an electrolyte.
Yeah, and so um, what I'm doing every morning is with a glass of water, I put a little sea salt in with it, and that seems to be a routine that I'm on. So, oh, it looks like you're frozen for just a second here. Maybe we'll come back. There you go. Now you're unfrozen. So it's okay. I was blabbing along, so it's fine. Um, you're back on.
Sorry
So
about that. I don't know what happened.
no, well, it's there's going to be weather, I guess, coming in, so maybe it's something with
Yeah, it's
weather or
very
something.
windy. I don't know
Yeah,
about where you are. It's very windy, but we're reconnected.
yeah,
Um, but yes, I have heard about putting sea salt. That's like creating an electrolyte, and that's very good to do.
yeah, yeah. So just a little dash of it, not very much.
Yes.
So tell us, with looking at mind and body connection,
Hmm.
how do our thoughts, how do what we think about all day, every day, both positive and negative, specifically influence our physical health? And can you share any personal experience or client successes, or maybe even client failures, about to illustrate the connection um, that influences physical health? Is that something you can touch on?
Yeah. People don't realize how their thoughts influence their body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, It's when our thoughts are pervasive. So let me explain how this works in very simplified terms. Um, when when our negative thoughts are pervasive, um, it creates where our negative thoughts are converted to cortisol and adrenaline that are streaming through our bodies. And that cortisol and adrenaline becomes chronic inflammation that is just passing, that is filling our body with inflammation from head to toe. And that chronic inflammation then weakens our immune system over
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And when our immune system is weakened, then it cannot protect us from illnesses and over time, diseases.
Yeah.
So imagine then what you're doing when you're pervasively thinking negative thoughts, you are eroding your immune system.
Hmm.
And that's not good because you can then pick up illnesses. And over time, you are subject to diseases, whatever that may be, any disease. Um, on the flip side, if you are thinking positively all the time, um, positive thoughts, those positive thoughts are converted to what I call happy chemicals like serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. And those happy chemicals are boosting your immune system. And when you have a boosted immune system, it protects you from catching illnesses
Hmm.
and preventing diseases. So
Hmm.
your health then is strengthened. So the idea is to my slogan, don't worry, be happy.
Hmm.
So you want to be an optimist, not a pessimist.
How
Think
how
happy thoughts.
how can people do that? What kind of exercises, so to speak, not necessarily physical, although I think that's an important part of happiness, but what kind of things can do you coach your clients to do when they're down in the doldrums, when they're not feeling happiness, and they're they don't want to get up in the morning or they don't want to go to work? What specific things might you recommend for me if that were my situation?
You know, okay, I don't coach people who have like clinical depression.
Sure, of course.
I would send them to a physician. That is
Mm-hmm.
not my line of work.
Uh-huh.
But if it's just people who have a tendency to always think the worst case scenario or have black and white thinking, I would say you have to start reframing your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, like, if you have a tendency to think um, the worst case scenario, you have to reframe your thought and think the opposite. And that takes effort and it takes time
Sure. Mm-hmm.
to uh, to practice that, especially if somebody has been a lifelong negative thinker. And there are people I know like that,
Of course,
because
yeah.
it can be cultural. There are certain families that just are negative thinkers, but you
Mm-hmm.
can learn to reframe it, or sometimes you may have to go to therapy to learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, you really have to force yourself to literally shift the thinking into the opposite, or like find the silver lining to what the thought is. Okay, if I'm thinking, oh, because my daughter does this, she's like the worst. She'll find like, oh no, I'm worried about something that hasn't even happened yet or may never happen.
I know. Yeah, I get it.
But you have to literally stop your thinking and shift it and reframe it and think, well, that's probably not even going to happen. So instead of thinking, what is the worst that could happen? Tell yourself, what is the best that could happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even what if something if you think it's going to happen, where you think your position with your job may be eliminated. Well, think about it as an opportunity
Yes.
for, to grow, to do new things, and how it might change your life, for the better. When I was years ago, when I was 32 years old, I was in retail and decided to go into real estate. It was a whole new thing. It was a different deal from selling musical instruments, for God's sakes. But it was a new opportunity. And then, when the market was going down and our community was having major troubles because industry was moving out and so forth, and my business was collapsing, it was an opportunity for me to move from Iowa to Bend, Oregon.
Mm,
And it changed my life, for it enriched my life, so much more. I can
yes.
tell you from my standpoint, I don't know if that is this is something that you recommend or use. I have found that writing daily affirmations
Mm, yes.
is a huge way to get out of those negative thoughts. Where if you're writing positive thoughts and
Yes.
you're working to live them, not just writing them, but you write them as if it's present tense. It's not,
Yes.
in the future. So one of an affirmation can be, I am powerful, healthy, and I'm going to live a long life. And repeating that every day. So your mind, I believe, your mind will learn that and will actually uh, adopt it into your life. So affirmations is something that's helped me a lot.
Yes, I
And
agree. And what you're doing with those affirmations written in the present term is you're rewiring your subconscious mind.
it's a subconscious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or you can do that the same thing by writing in a journal every day, putting down your thoughts, and then it's the same thing by rewiring your subconscious mind. That's a form of hypnosis, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and Claire's absolutely right. She's not giving out medical information, but and that's not her job, and certainly isn't mine. But if you feel that you're in trouble, with negative thoughts and so forth, that's where there's people to help, and you need to reach out, right? So Claire, I know that you're committed to helping people extend their life expectancy. That's something that is on your site, something that you do. Can you outline? I found in your materials that you outline 5 key strategies that can help seniors increase their chances of living to 100 and beyond, right? And I
Yeah.
think we all want to live long, healthy lives. But you're committed to this. So, can you outline strategies to help seniors get to 100, the things that they need to do?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, my wellness program, um, I teach the pillars of wellness. And in my program, I have 6 pillars of wellness. And these can, if they're done consistently,
Mm-hmm.
slow down aging. And that can help anyone get to 100 or close to it. So, one is optimum nutrition, and that is the Mediterranean diet, also called the anti inflammatory diet. And
Mm-hmm.
these are nutritious foods that are colorful vegetables, uh, low glucose fruits, fish, little red meat, some wine, not many sugary foods, and it's a focus on whole grains. So that is what the Mediterranean diet is. And it's a lifestyle of eating nutritious foods.
Yeah.
Then the second one is physical activity. It's doing some form of brisk 30 minutes a day activity that gets your body moving. It can be walking, it can be swimming, jogging, rowing, some kind of repetitive cardio activity, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Then it is sleeping that we talked about earlier, sleeping a routine pattern of sleeping 7 to 9 hours per day. And then it's relaxation, some form of relaxation that you enjoy 1 hour a day. It can be taking a nap, it could be reading a book, playing an instrument, having a conversation with a friend. It could be taking a walk. It could be just enjoying relaxation with your pet. But
Mm-hmm.
some form of relaxation where you just let go about work or any type of stress, you just put it behind you and relax.
Yeah.
Because stress, as most people know, can kill. It can cause heart attacks, it can cause strokes. So we want people to relax and let go at least an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then social connections. Social connections are extremely important. We want people to have rich, positive social connections and really work at building those and keeping those connections nurtured
Mm.
throughout their lives. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the purposeful living, having a reason to get up in the morning every day.
Yeah.
So, those are
So,
the six pillars of wellness.
so do you have or have you adopted exercises that you suggest to your clients? For instance, with building social connection, do you have or do you have suggestions on how to do that? How do people start? I think there's some people that go, well, I would like to, but I don't know where to start. I don't know anybody in my neighborhood, or I don't belong to any organizations. What? How can people build social connections? I think this is so important for people to do. Any suggestions that you use with your clients?
Well, if you're talking about somebody who has absolutely nobody in their lives, which
Uh-huh.
is sort of hard to believe, uh, um, I would, you know what I would say?
Hmm.
And this isn't always possible, but I would say get a dog.
Okay.
Because I think that's an excellent way of connecting with people. When you walk a dog around a neighborhood, you will not believe how many people you will meet so quickly in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
true.
that is one very effective way of meeting your neighbors because so many people have a dog. And when
Yes.
I came to my new neighborhood after a broken relationship and I had to move out of my old neighborhood and leave a relationship and I went to a new neighborhood and I was all alone and I was heartbroken and I knew nobody. I got a dog. For one thing, I wanted the comfort of an animal because I was alone. But and the other
Mm-hmm.
thing, I knew nobody in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I got a dog and I
Mm.
started walking this dog and I met so many people immediately. So I think that's an excellent way of meeting people.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it worked when I was a young man. They used to, I had a Siberian Husky,
that's what I
and
got.
yeah, and one of the things that a friend told me says, listen, get a Siberian Husky.
Yes.
They are chick magnets. All right.
Yes,
So,
they're so beautiful.
yeah, they're perfect. And, I see that even around the windows in my home, in my neighborhood. I live in a Del Webb seniors community, and I see it all the time. People walking their dogs. It's physical activity. Uh,
Yes.
it's talking to people, it's community, and I see them meeting at the mailbox with their dogs. I see them, being and how important is that, and especially for seniors. So
Yes.
those are great suggestions. I
Another
want,
thing,
yeah,
oh,
go ahead,
want
go
to go
ahead.
on? Oh, another thing I did when I came to my new community and I was all alone and I had nothing to do, and all I was doing was sitting in front of the TV watching cooking shows. I was alone and sad. My friend kept encouraging me to get out of the house, and she kept saying, "Take dance lessons." She was a dancer, and
Mhm.
I put it off for a while, and then finally I said, "Okay." And so I took dance lessons from a friend of hers who was a teacher, a dance teacher, and that changed my life in the biggest way.
Isn't that
Um,
crazy? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, first of all, it's really great exercise, but it's very, very social.
Mhm.
Um, I, and it is a community of its own. There's so many dancers in Dallas, and I met my partner there, and we've
There you
been
go.
together 4 years, and I have so many friends that I've acquired in the dance community. And it's something that you can do your entire life. You would not believe how many seniors are in the Dallas dance community, Jim.
Huh.
We dance every weekend, um, several times a week. We still take lessons, and it is absolutely changed my life in the most positive way.
That's so interesting because years ago, when I was 25, I asked a young gal in my community to take dance lessons with me. They were actually disco lessons, so that's going back. And so I asked her to take lessons with me. I didn't really know her. We did, and we've been married 45 years this year. So
Oh, that's a
yes,
beautiful story.
so you found somebody through
Yes,
dance lessons, and I think more importantly, it's not necessarily just dance, although that's a great place, but it can be so many other community things that you
of
can do,
course.
and so one of the main concerns I think seniors have, and I know that I have, is the fear of inheriting diseases from our parents. Our genetic makeup and the tree that we're a branch of.
Hmm.
Um, what and both of my parents, for example, died of lung cancer. Now, their lung cancer was probably heavily uh, what contributed to it was smoking
Yeah,
back at that time. But so I'm not as fearful of inheriting that cancer necessarily. But what can seniors do to mitigate the risk of developing diseases that may run in their family? How do you outrun that, or how do you escape it? What can you do?
okay. So this is a simplified explanation of genetics. Um, our genetics, okay, I'm going to just use an example of diabetes.
Okay.
Let's say that one or both of your parents has diabetes, and you may or may not inherit the predisposition for that gene.
Hmm.
Um, you have a predisposition for it. That doesn't mean you've inherited it. You have a predisposition for it, but that doesn't mean automatically that you will
Okay.
inherit it.
Hmm.
The gene is like an on-off switch, and you control by your lifestyle choices whether or not that gene will get turned on or whether it will get turned off by the choices you make, such as your nutrition, your exercise patterns, your sleep patterns, your mindset, how happy you are in your life. So whether or not you make healthy lifestyle choices or unhealthy lifestyle choices will determine over the course of time whether or not that gene gets flipped on or flipped
Okay.
off.
Okay.
That is called the process of epigenetics. So 20% of genetics is out of our control, but 80% is a large part in our control by the lifestyle decisions that we make.
Hmm.
And that's a large portion. So, I encourage people to, of course, and that's why I coach them to make good lifestyle decisions so that they remain healthy and can avoid diseases.
Yeah, so there's things we obviously can do, and you've outlined those, to
Yes,
help us today. You've
right.
talked about those things,
Yes,
and we may not necessarily be able to outrun it, but we can do everything we can to not feed it, to not feed the
true.
disease.
I believe you can outrun it, like heart disease. I know that is the number one killer in the whole world, heart
Mm-hmm.
disease. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely believe we can outrun it. And I understand that many, many people's parents died of heart disease.
Yeah.
That is, like I said, both of my grandparents died of grandmother died of heart disease. I have no fear that I will die of heart disease because I live a very healthy lifestyle that
Yes.
I believe will prevent me from dying of heart disease.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just need to be as proactive as you possibly can.
Right.
So great. So Claire, we've covered a lot in
Yep.
just a few minutes here. So if people do go to your website to make contact with you, and again, the website is www.claire. Well, you do it for me because
Yeah,
you
it's
you you
Claire, my name, which is
yeah.
clairecavalieri.com. It's CLAIRECAVALIERI.com.
Okay. And so if someone goes there, what will they be doing if they want to make contact with you? What do they need to click or where do they need to go?
Well,
How
there's
does
several places on the website that say book a consult. And that would be the first point of contact with me. The consults are free,
okay,
um, and they last for about an hour. And when we have a consult, you can ask me any question whatsoever about my wellness program, how it works, what it's all about, pricing, and we'll just have a one-on-one casual conversation about the wellness program, which is explained under programs on the website.
okay.
But we
So
can talk about it in much more detail in our consultation.
sure. Well, listen, I highly encourage my listeners to reach out to you if nothing more than to connect, discuss, their lives, ways that you can help them and help explain to them the power of choice in healthy aging and in helping them with their journey as they continue to age, right? And so I
Yes.
encourage my listeners to do that. So, Claire, I want to thank you for taking this time. I know you're a very busy person. I hope I'm not holding you up from dancing or anything like that. Uh,
No,
but
this has been my absolute pleasure. I love talking about this subject. I get very passionate about wellness and helping others look into their future and see how they want to be when they're in their 70s and 80s. And then I help them formulate a plan to get to that point.
yeah, well, we all want to live healthy, long lives, right?
Yes,
And
it's about
so
quality.
Oh, it really is. Well, thanks again. This has been just a joy and a pleasure. And I want to thank my listeners and those that are watching on YouTube. I want to thank you for being here. And again, reach out to Claire if you feel that she can help you with your journey as you age. And we'll see you the next time on Senior to Seniors. Thanks again, Claire.
Thank you, Jim. It's been my pleasure.